When you hear the name Shelby, you probably think of the Cobra, the Mustang, or some big block V8 that was built in partnership with Ford, right? But this here is something completely different. This is a 1999 Shelby Series 1, and let's talk about why this car matters. The Shelby Series 1 is the only car that Carroll Shelby designed, engineered, and built entirely from the ground up. There was no Ford platform, there was no borrowing from another manufacturer, there was no badge engineering. This was just Carroll Shelby. Essentially, he just started with a clean sheet of paper and was like, I'm going to build a car my way. And the example you're looking at here is going live at Mecum Kissimmee auction, and I've been talking about that all week, and it's going to be an absolutely crazy event. It's coming up January 9th, and I'll be covering that entire auction pretty much all week that it's going on. Actually, 2 weeks that it's going on right here on Dots Lots. You do not want to miss that. But back to this car. It's going to be crossing the block at Mecum Kissimmee event, and it's something you just don't see too often, right? It's got 537 miles from new, and it's just one of 249 of these Series 1s ever produced. Let's talk about the history of this car, though. By the 90s, Carroll Shelby had already cemented his legacy into the automotive industry. You had the Cobras, which were like legendary. You had the Mustangs, which were pretty popular and pretty well known. And so his name carried a lot of weight in the automotive industry. But there was just one problem with this, and that was that most of his cars that he'd worked on were partnerships. So he relied on AC for the Cobra. He relied on Ford for the Mustang. So there was just not enough creative freedom that he had. He was very restricted with what he could do to these cars because of the manufacturer restrictions. So in the late 90s, it pretty much inspired him to create his own car. He wanted something that was lightweight, aluminum-bodied, American roadster that could really compete with European sports cars. And that car became the Series 1, a 4-liter, 32-valve DOHC V8 sourced from Oldsmobile's engine program. It was lightweight, it was high revving, it was super modern for the time, and produced around 320 horsepower, which at the time was a pretty strong performance numbers for the late 90s. Power was sent through a ZF 6-speed manual transmission, and the chassis itself was all aluminum structure, so it was super lightweight. Inside the car is super simple yet super special. You get leather interior, power windows, locks, seats, air conditioning, and even a monsoon stereo. The seats themselves are also embroidered with Carroll Shelby's signature. And the car is finished off with Shelby 5-spoke 3-piece wheels. Despite the ambition and aspiration and the ideas behind this car, it took a turn because production was super limited. It was also very complicated. There was new safety emissions, new regulations that forced them to change how they were designing the car mid-production, which made costs go up, and then it really complicated things. And then at the end of all of it, the car arrived at a much higher price point than it had originally planned to do. And as a result of this, only 249 Series 1s were complete, which is far fewer than Shelby had hoped. Today, however, the Shelby Series 1 is much appreciated, especially for what it is. With only 249 of these cars produced, and examples like this one showing 537 miles from new, this has become one of the most collectible and historically significant Shelbys in history. Like I said, this is going to be crossing the block at Mecum Kissimmee coming up, and you do not want to miss it. I'll link the auction in the description below. But for right now, that's all I got.